today's stream is going to be a little bit unconventional, if not late. We're going to be doing some sampling today. We're going to be doing some real-world sampling using some technology that I have behind me right here. Strategically positioned. I'm using my phone, by the way. This is why it took me so long to get started here today. And I hope the audio quality is okay. And but it doesn't really. It really only needs to capture my voice here because we're doing a little bit of talking about, well, how do you capture samples and how do you capture them effectively, and how do you sort of deal with the obstacles to get in the way when you're trying to capture a specific sample. You think people who go around with boom mics and headsets and do things like this, where you have portable microphone, and in this case I have my headset connected to the microphone that allows me to hear what I am recording. So you guys will be able to hear it in the second half of today's stream, which I'll be doing upstairs in the normal fashion. But today I want to try something a little bit different for Friday's Friday stream. So, we're going to be doing a little bit of recording I was thinking, it's one of the bases that I've designed in the previous streams, and for the whole kind of mood I'm trying to go for in this next house project, or this next song. I want to do something that involves like mechanical sounds and power tools and whatnot, and I really like the prospect of using those kinds of sounds as not only foundations for like basses, because if you break it down, but we'll break this down more. We'll talk about all that more once we get into the DAW. But right now we're going to actually record some sounds of real power tools. Kids, don't try this at home unless you know what you're doing. But we're going to take a couple assortments of items here, and we're going to record them in multiple settings. And why multiple settings? Well, here you might be able to hear it in the stream, but there's a lot of background noise going on. There is an air conditioner right behind me. There is a fan right next to me. And especially in the room that I got this tool from, there were about, I counted 6 fans running, and they just all contribute their own background noise because they're oscillating and rotating and making noise, and fans are loud. So, and ideally when we're recording samples, we want to be away from other sound sources, unless we're trying to capture like a whole environment, right? If we're just kind of standing, let's say you go, I don't know, somewhere off in nature or whatnot, I don't know, like off a nature trail somewhere, and you just want to like capture all of the sounds in that area, then in that case you would turn up your mic and then just stand there and capture everything. But ideally, if let's say you want to capture like a specific sound, like this, you want to capture this, but not the generator, not the AC, not the fan. So you need something to get in the way of this microphone, or something, nothing in the way, first of all, nothing in the way of this microphone and this sound source, right? But you want something that kind of shields off or blocks other sounds, or of course you want to just isolate and get rid of the sounds, like the AC unit just conveniently turned off for me. So this might actually be possible to record here. Yeah, and it comes down to acoustics as well, and we'll talk a little bit about acoustics here just before we start. So behind me is a wall, right? And that wall has, well, I guess I could start from a different perspective. If I move this drill, that sound emanates from that drill and then goes off in all directions like a wave, and it just propagates out. And that's why someone over there could hear it, someone over there could hear it, I could hear it, but I hear it first and then they hear it next. There's a wave that propagates out, and then that wave can also bounce off of walls. So it bounces off of that wall, it bounces off of that wall, and it depends what material the wall is made out of, and as to how much it will reflect that sound back. So let's say, a practical example, let's say you shout into the Grand Canyon, for example, and you hear an echo. But you might hear that echo like 3 or 5 seconds later. It's because the sound takes time to travel over there, but then it bounces off the really hard rock and comes back at you as more some sort of reflection. But it's not always like just like an exact replica. It's not exactly a copy like a delay effect would do. Like, for example, putting a delay effect on a track, as we've done many times in Ableton. Perhaps not talking about it, but we did talk about it like in the beginning about what a delay effect is. It just takes the sound that you input and then just repeats it over a certain interval of time. And it's sort of replicating what's happening in the real world when sound bounces off of walls and gets either amplified or, and depending on the distance of the reflection and all that, it might get canceled, it might get muffled, and the room affects the sound of anything that's in it, like drastically. So on that note, you want to pick the ideal environment to record the sound that you're after, and that environment is going to affect your recording significantly. So to demonstrate that, we're going to be recording a few things, not too many things, but we're going to be recording them in different environments and moving around, and we're going to be comparing them after we're done here. Just another obvious source of background noise. Like, I can't even do my stream, right? But it's not making me look very clever. Let's see if I can perhaps move things around a little bit. Maybe get some more light on the scenario. Yeah, just to prove that it's not just a green screen. We are in fact outside. Hello. Again, in a better light. Yeah, there we go. That's right. I've got this kind of rigged up on like a mic stand. It's weird. All right. So now that things are kind of quieting down, let's go ahead and try to record a couple things. So we're going to record first something simple. Some keys jangling. Because we could move this all sorts of ways and get all sorts of kind of different varieties of sounds. But let's just do this. So, but let me first talk about kind of what I'm using here. It's kind of it shows up backwards, but that's fine. This is the Tascam DR05. It's a stereo mic. It's got two condenser mics, so it's got a this is the right channel, this is the left channel. It's kind of confusing because I'm showing backwards and I'm kind of rotating around, but it's got a left and a right, and the way this thing works is it's got sort of its own built-in storage, right? So I can record things and it'll store it in its own SD card here. and then I can later take it up, plug it in via USB to here, small jets, right, jets. No, I'm not recording. I'm just waiting for them to stop being background noise. We will be going inside momentarily just for these reasons. But I wanted to demonstrate the whole concept of this like portable recording, right? And then inside I'll show you some other varieties of mics that are single channel, like most mics you would expect to just be one. Well, in this case, what you would call this is a diaphragm. You just expect them to be one diaphragm, but some are stereo mics, right? Stereo mics exist, and on that note, we have to be attentive to what direction we are pointing the microphone, because based on where we record it from, we'll get a different result in our sound, and I'll demonstrate that as well. So I'll record the keys from a couple different angles as well as different locations. So my face is cut off, but that's fine. So let's go ahead and I'm going to press the record button here. That's going to start a preview, and now I can hear the recording in my headset. And then I have some controls down at the bottom here. These will control the input sensitivity. So if I turn this down, it will capture less of the quieter stuff. So it will basically lower the threshold at which it will receive sound, right? But lower the input sensitivity. It will only capture stuff that's closer, and it will try to omit things that are in the background. But obviously, it's not based on distance, it's based on, volume. So things like the plane will still get through. But just mostly because it is really, really loud. I'm also going to just turn down the volume on the headset itself. And here comes my cat. Hello. Say hello. What? Can't get the angle on him, but yeah. All right. Well, my cat is saying hello. So, I'm turn down the input sensitivity so that, and you'll notice here there's two bars. That's kind of the level right now. So if I turn this down, you can see the background noise is now not very much, but when I talk, you can hear it picking up my voice. And you can also hear it, well, slightly picking up the jet in the background. So I'm just kind of waiting this out here so I can get a good sample here. So let's just try recording this now. So I'm going to point it right at the keys, and then I'm going to move it around a little bit. And now we have the AC on just as I cut out the recording. Perfect timing. We're going to do the recording again just so that you guys can hear the influence of something like this on the quality of a recording. So let's try this again with the extra added things. Also, there's a wasp there that I'm kind of watching. No harm to you, buddy. Okay, that might be a little better. But now let's sort of Let's try a couple more things, shall we? Okay, I'll go after that. Kind of want to watch this little cutie. My cat's trying to go after a wasp. I'm trying to encourage it not to. Cat, that thing will not. Yeah. Alright, well, let me tune you guys in the action, I suppose. Cat. Mm-mm. Yeah, whatever. He'll be fine. He will be fine. Well, let's record some more things, shall we? So the second thing I want to try to record was a drill, and I'm going to record it in several different ways. So all right. So I'm kind of moving it around, and I'm trying to see where exactly I'm getting the most sound from. I imagine the motor back here, right? Oh, I think right about here, actually. And something's making me think that, that's going to come through in this sample. Something's making me think that I'm just getting the sound of the wind noise that's coming out of these ports, rather than just the noise of the motor itself. So maybe if I try on top. And I can't tell if what's the recording or what's coming through the headphones. It's nice to have, I don't have the new cable for them yet, but it's nice to have noise canceling headphones for this. I'll just turn up the gain. No, I get a much better sound from down here. Okay, let me try a little bit faster. Okay. Another thing I like to try is an air compressor. If it's even going to work. Yes. Okay. So, I'm going to capture this thing. Basically a vacuum / air compressor. The cat's not going to like this. Cat is not going to like this. I'm going to wait for him to leave before I, make loud noises. So I'm going to definitely try this in multiple spots because I know that right away I realized this might not be the most ideal thing, because this is a slab of concrete. Concrete reflects sound very, very easily. It's a very dense material, and it's just going to, any sound that gets thrown at it just bounces right off. So maybe I might want to try isolating this more by lifting it up off of the ground and elevating it onto something more. Like, let's try some of these. I'll just hold it up. That's fine. I'll just hold it up. I kind of want to actually mess with the pressure on the vacuum some. That's not even connected. Well, that would help. Now you might be thinking, what? That's not music. Why did you just record that? Well, to me, I'm thinking that last sound I recorded might make a particularly good starting point, or maybe a noise addition to a bass sound, or some sort of aggressive bass sound. So you got to think outside the box. I don't know. That's just my guess. But I'm just going to put this back here. Yeah. I think that's really the only sample I'm going to make of that one, just because it's quite annoying. And I don't want to make too much noise for the neighbors. So I'll turn this one off. I'll just sample the keys and the drill somewhere else. So let me first find a new location. So I'm kind of moving this around as like camera stand plus, this is what I'm using to hold my phone in place. Quite professional, I know. But we are going to go to a different spot that's perhaps a little bit quieter. And try maybe here. This ought to be, there's a generator in the background, but we'll see if that comes through when we put our headset on. So let me go get what I'm going to sample here. I'll be right back. All right. So right now, mostly I'm actually hearing wind noise. And you might be asking, well, what is wind noise? That's, well, obviously when wind blows up against this diaphragm and it moves a little bit. I guess I should start by explaining how the diaphragm works. In this case, it's a condenser diaphragm, so it's a capacitor. It's two electric plates that are really close together, and whenever they are moved by any external force, by any sound pressure wave that comes in, that will excite that will move the diaphragm a little bit, and then sound will be produced and turned into an electrical signal, and in this case, turned into a digital signal and recorded to a file. So, any movement of this physical piece here is going to create noise in this whole system, and that includes the movement from wind. But the thing is, all of this wind movement is going to be really, really low frequency sound. So, despite there being any wind movement, this will very easily be able to be processed out. I can just put an EQ on the bottom and put a high pass filter on, and then all the wind noise is gone. So, recording in outside settings like this might result in some wind noise, which might obscure, because you have so much low energy coming in, it might obscure some of what's happening on the higher end once you end up compressing it down. But for most case, shouldn't worry too much about wind noise. So try recording the keys again. Okay, start recording the drill. And there we have it. Let's just take a little look at our surroundings here. So we've got a metal wall next to us, which might have reflected some sound, but on the other side we've got mostly plants, and that should have absorbed most of the sound there, or if not, let it all just dissipate and not get reflected. So this, in theory, is a better spot than the other spot, but we still have the background noise like the generator, and birds, and wind and whatnot, especially wind. So if we, per se, come inside here, if we go back to our streaming setup, I've got it set up in my room so there's lots of cloth and or acoustic foam laid around the wall and carpet on the floor, and anything that can necessarily absorb sound I have put on the walls. And I also have, as you know, the green screen that also has some effect in absorbing sound. So I guess we can try that here, because that's really all I wanted to do for the sampling today, but there's always more things to sample. But seeing that my phone is dying rapidly, and this is not exactly the most ideal way of doing things, we'll be coming back very shortly here in the streaming setup. And plus, I don't want to, show too much. So that will be all for this segment. Just tune in for in the next 15 minutes or so, we'll be coming up with part 2 here, and I'll be taking these samples